they were easy because they were actors and they needed to do what they're supposed to, and they wanted it to look good. But early in the summer, I spent time teaching them to cast. And one day I said to Patrick Markey, who was the producer, I said, you know, I know they're not practicing any, but they come back the next day and they seem to be able to just do, you know. And he said, well, good actors are good imitators. And that was really a key thing, because toward the end, when I was working with them, I said, okay, you two, I said, I want to show you something. I said, Brad, you're the hotshot. And I said, sort of casting in a faster way. And I said, Craig, you're the professor, you know, slower, more methodical. I said, everyone casts. You don't want to cast just like me. You need to, you know, have your own. And then they started, oh, okay, you know. But they were imitating me, and then I said, now look, see, you're a slower caster, the more methodical professor, and you're the hotshot, so we'll speed it up a little bit. And that was, and then they got this, okay, you know. To it from mining.
Oh, from mine.
And now the Blackfoot has been cleaned up, and there was I forget what they call the lake, but they took all the tailings out of that lake, and now Clark Fork actually runs free like it used to.
Oh.
And the movie, I think the movie had a big help. And then the people up in the Blackfoot all started to bring and put an organization in, like the Blackfoot Challenge, together. And it took a long time, but it's all been restored, and all those tailings have been dealt with.
Oh.
They actually took them to Anaconda and piled them up where they'd already ruined everything from all the copper mines. So,
Wow.
but I never thought, but yeah, it was a couple of years ago they actually took the dam out and it flows now freely.
Oh, wow.
Well, the first one was more like the book, where the old man drives to the river and walks down and starts to tell the story. And that's the way the first version I saw it. And they took it, I was told they took it to a test audience in Newport, and nobody could make the jump from the old man to the kids. And I think my view was, because Redford narrated it, that people knew that voice. And maybe they weren't going to make the jump anyway. I always knew the story because I'd read the book, so so they changed it and they put all these photos to make set up the old versus the jump. So that's, to me, it moved slower with the photos.
Right.
But I knew the story, and probably for the general public, they would have never made the jump. I don't know. I think people were real happy, and then they, you know, the street, they took Callender and built another false story, and then they put the boardwalks in. And why the people let them take them back out is beyond me, but they probably weren't safe. But anyway,
Yeah.
it looked pretty neat. And then they just laid gravel down on the pavement. Yeah, it was interesting. Now, it only did one side. You know, it's
funny.
interesting what they're capable of in a set, how much they can use one and not, you know.
Wow.
Be hard to measure. I mean, I think it certainly put it on the map. And did it help Big Sky really expand? I mean, who knows? I mean, it certainly put it on the map, and it certainly exposed fly fishing to a huge world and brought a lot of women into fly fishing. Now, one could argue it was Brad Pitt that did that. And to give you, this would be 2.5 years ago, I was in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and they wanted me to speak on the history of Danvalian and Irvine through it. Well, the two are it's too long. You can't do both, incredibly. But I have a slide that, because Columbia gave me photos from their professional photographers from the set to do a slideshow in Italy. But I have this slide of Brad, which is one of it's backlit, it's spectacular. and the audience of the fly fishing thing are mostly old. And most of the women are gray haired. And when the slide went up, it sounded like teenage girls. Oh, they just went. I was shocked. I didn't. And then this woman comes up. She must have been 70 or something. Oh, I'm just so glad you showed that photo. And her husband, I just don't get it. Well, you just don't get it. I just went. I couldn't believe it. Where I have a copy of the letter they gave me, because the Humane Society from LA wrote them, and about using hooks and fish and ripping lips and whatever. And so we weren't allowed to use any hooks in the boat.
Oh, interesting.
And they had a woman from Bozeman Humane Society on set, make sure we were okay. And then I said, well, how are we attaching the fish? And they told me that was my problem.